What do you mean, don't play with the humans? That was the question the representative for one of the new races that had just joined the council. We mean just that. We are well aware that they are a part of the council, but, well, the centauric chancellor said, shuffling a little. This was one of the few times that the humans, or their allies the Saline or the Saurian Trikes, were present, mainly due to preparing for an all-out war against a fantastical horror from the great beyond the humans had bested once, and were gearing up for round 2. A perfect moment to warn the new races why not to poke humans or their allies. Because any sentient who lives in close proximity to any human for any length of time, and this includes their sentient, living constructs, starts showing signs of their traits. We think it's some of upper level of psionic pack bond. Another sentient said, who had been on the council for a long time. What kind of traits, and how would a psionic pack bond be bad? Sounds more like it would be a good thing, said another of the new races, just having discovered FTL and left their home worlds. The chancellor sighed. Simply put, their tenacity, partial insanity, and refusal to just give up. The Carey learned this one the hard way during the attempted annexation of the Gravel system. Needless to say, the locals fought back with everything they had at their disposal, and ended up creating possibly one of the most effective, if horrifying, special forces teams in existence, despite their questionable sanity. One of the new races, a predatory snake-like race, perked up, their tongues flickering in anticipation. "Success sounds like a wonderful SSSS sparring racks," they hissed hungrily, imagining all the war games they could play, only to get a snort from one of the admirals. "Good luck. Karkingthal damned squishies managed to figure out how to use space as a damned weapon," the admiral groaned. Silence reigned before chaos erupted, demanding how they managed to do it. The admiral in question sighed and stood up, motioning for silence. They were a Jira, a thick-skinned, brass-colored creature, 2-armed and 3-legged, earning them a strange, loping gait, their twin eye stalks panning about as they trundled up to the podium. "A few days ago, I received reports from a merchant fleet that they were under attack by pirates. Normal stuff. We set out to investigate, until they explained that they had gotten away unscathed, all but one ship, a human vessel, who they seemed to have a grudge on. I would later learn that the same ship was responsible for destroying the Black Star and its entire crew using nothing more than mining lasers, tractor beam system, and the asteroid belt they were flying in. Details are sparse. The humans and their allies are tight-lipped on how, only saying what weapons were used, but at the time, the nearest station registered a dilithium cascade close to the slagged remains of the Black Star. The auditorium was silent, many looking at one another in shock and confusion. However, unlike with the Black Star incident, the Indomitable incident, there were several sharp intakes of breath and a muffled curse from the Carey, was far better documented. Seems the Black Star pirates had let the rest of their fleet know who they were paid to go after, and when it was learned they were destroyed, Captain Harsha decided to take on the ship in question. I received word at that time. Not only had the ship, the Event Horizon, yes, that ship, a myth out of their own history books, had not only been rearmed, but because of her Cephalon-class construction, had installed additional weapon systems, the kind one would see on their PT ships. Several races hissed and winced. For reference, a human PT ship is designed to be small, fast, highly maneuverable, lightly armored, and heavily armed. They can dance around capital ship fire, get in close and release heavy ordnance, and get out before you have time to get anything stronger than an anti-fighter cannon locked onto them. The Indomitable was a breach-class capital ship, normally used to grab vessels and hold them in place to board them, or pummel them into submission or oblivion. The Admiral continues. Holograms of the ships, to scale, appeared above the Chancellor. The Indomitable easily dwarfed the horizon by several orders of magnitude. Don't let her size fool you. That one ship, and one ship alone, was capable of completely neutering the Indomitable's armament and ripping her apart till nothing remained but the command section. The Admiral paused to take in a deep breath and stare down at the younger races. The snake-like one looking on in anticipatory glee, while several others were skeptical. The Indomitable moved in to attempt to capture the horizon, upon which the horizon told the merchant fleet to evacuate and charged into the fray. As soon as they were within tether range, the disc section separated from the main body, turning into a small gunboat, while the main section bombarded them from afar. The hologram showed exactly that, doing a representation of the maneuvers that the vessel pulled. Once crippled thanks to well-placed shots, and a well-placed explosive thanks to the large transmat dish beneath, the Indomitable attempted to take the horizon out via a suicide burn. Several races hissed, a unfortunately common tactic by pirates, especially if they wanted to remove the enemy they fought from the fray. That's when we learned why the horizon was held in such high regard. It's not only the smallest ship they have equipped with one of their illustrious and frankly terrifying V-hull drives, it's weaponized it. The Admiral said, as the hologram showed space distorting around the horizon, but remaining in real space, becoming a mobile, lethal, and hyper-vicious black hole, racing around the Indomitable, tearing it to shreds with nothing more than glancing blows. As of right now, they won't tell us how it did this, which is par for the course, as they won't even explain their V-hull engines to anyone. And frankly, none of us want to use such an insane system. Now, the horizon has the smallest drive, true, but the humans have far, far larger ones. Imagine a ship the size of a shipyard, dropping in, and suddenly becoming a black hole, ripping apart entire solar systems. And that's not even counting what else humanity has in store, even if you were to incapacitate the crew of a vessel well. The Admiral said, and gave a glare in the huguk. The vessels themselves are alive and more than willing to make sure any threats to their crew are falling apart in the black. And the horizon is one such vessel. And what's more, it's not even a combat vessel, it's a scientific ship. A cough from the Chancellor got the Admiral's attention, making the sentient sigh. Apologies. Back to the matter at hand. Fact of the matter is, humans can and will use anything and everything they have to their advantage. The human Marines, known as Team Fortress, are an example of what happens when you cut them off from their command force, and they pull out all the stops up to the Geneva Convention. And that's not something I'm willing to go into here, as it's better said by someone else who saw when one race, who no longer exists, turned it into what they called the Geneva Checklist. The creature shuddered. Anyways, once cut off from command, the Marines went crazy. You see, their command isn't there to protect them. They are there to protect their opponent. Why? Because if a human or human-exposed division is let loose, it's like letting an industrial assembly arm loose in a room full of glass with random inputs every nanosecond. Utter chaos. The Carey shuddered in their alcove, a haunted look flashing across their facsimile of a face. They just kept coming. The Carey said, their single, large eye staring into nothing. We cut one down, made sure to burn the body to keep them from retrieving it, and they kept coming back. Our psionics confirmed, it was the same ones, Thal's teeth. They even joked about their own deaths. Their souls, their minds moved to cloned bodies, and kept fighting, holding down positions, taking fortifications, stealing intelligence data. They didn't stop. We could only hope they slowed to train the locals of each world they stopped at during their campaign. Any attempt to retake that world was met with the same insane, senseless tactics. Retaking the worlds was useless. We tried to glass their worlds, but they turned our own lasers against us. They used their solar farms' mirrors to bounce our weapons back to their point of origin, melting the weapons in their mounts before sending up their mining augers. The Carey closed its eye and placed its hand on its head. I can still hear the scream of metal as the massive mining drills punched through our hulls like flimsy, disgorging angry miners and farmers, armed with nothing more than their own tools of the trade, and used them like weapons. Scythe for wheat sliced through our warriors, having been combined with vibrosaws. Mining lasers sliced through flesh in moments. Detonation charges used for blast mining were used to demolish locked doors, destroy engines, barricades, and central computers. And then the team themselves. They stole our ships without even being noticed. Slipped aboard, leaving trails of bodies in their wake silently, or ripping through walls with their chattering abomination of weapons, or used mining lasers to cut through bulkheads, walking though like it was a normal doorway, or danced with fire, leaving it everywhere like it was their hallmark, letting it play in their hand, unharmed. The carry opened its eye. You couldn't even trust a friend. Many were dead, and were replaced by their infiltration specialist, mimicking our mannerisms, our habits, blending in, and then drove a knife between our ribs the moment we turned our backs to fight his brothers in arms, or left machines that would destroy, dismantle, or reprogram whatever they were left on, the carry said, trembling. By now, the entire auditorium was silent, listening to the carry's testimony. They will laugh in the face of death. They will not care how many times they die if it means that their families are safe, their friends are safe. You threaten their young, and that makes it worse, the carry said. I watched one of my superior officers hold a child by their hair, knife to their throat. The biggest of the lot, the infiltrator, and the loud one, utterly lost it. Even the fastest, the smallest of them couldn't match the speed they moved at. The infiltrator sliced through the arm of my commander like it was nothing, bone and all, while the biggest pulled the young away and handed them to their healer, who, with their fastest, comforted the child. All the while the other three took turns using my commander for a sparring dummy. Even the healer took a turn, using his instruments to undo the damage just to do it again, to muffle screams of pain to not traumatize the young one. The carry trailed off, silent, not speaking anymore. And it spreads, and spreads quickly. The Glinch, once docile, the Trike, quiet and reserved, the Saline, quiet and meek. And now, the Chancellor said, shaking his head, they still have those traits, but it's overshadowed by curiosity, the need to break down physics door, rearrange every room, glue all the furniture to the ceiling, and then leave after fixing the door like nothing happened. The will and anger to protect their young, even when they can just make more, to ensure that those who took them learn never to touch a hair on their little ones' heads. The need to make sure their loved ones are safe, to protect them to the last breath and beyond in many cases, and it's not an isolated event. Any of your races that you see exhibiting that spark, that tenacity, that eldritch sensation, like a mix between a sleeping predator and a dark guardian, quietly relocate them to human space, before it spreads to the rest of your people. Several of the younger races scoffed. The snake-like one was curious, as was a more bear-like species. One of the older races sighed. Just don't. Don't play with humans if you know what's good for you. Or everyone else. Last thing we need is them going on some Thal's fool crusade because some idiot harmed their young or their friends. You can trade with them carefully. You can let them pass through your space or not. It's up to you. Just don't wake up the sleeping horrors, well, before it's time. Followed by another representative's voice. We have enough to deal with as it is.